ex-husband to be and went through the anguishing uh, transformation of going through a divorce and discovering who I was as an adult woman with no partner and a mom, a single mom of a young person, and a businesswoman trying to carry on as though nothing were going wrong in my life, which is super fun, more more fun than it sounds actually. Um, and
This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today to start turning your dreams into a reality. Alright, hey you, just you. So, before I get into this conversation with Honoree Corder, I'd like to read you a review that I got from The Moil, which The Moil says, Logan tackles the tough issues with compassion, authenticity, and a genuine desire to make the world a better place. I'm definitely keeping this show in my library. Great guests, great stories, and real-world experience to help make life beautiful. Thank you so much, The Moil. I really appreciate you saying that, and I really want to invite anyone else out that wants to leave a review to please do that. I know it's a little tough. I know it is. I understand that. I get it. But it does help out so much. It's the best compliment to either leave a review or share this with a friend, because you feel like it actually is helping you right now with a problem. And if it's helping with a problem, then why not try to solve it for someone else by sharing it? And maybe solve it for yourself too while doing it. That's awesome. Also, I want to invite you really quick to the Scratch Your Own Itch Facebook group. I will include that in the show notes for this episode. Honoree and I talk about a lot of stuff that's great. So if you want to write a book, this episode, first of all, is totally for you. And second of all, if you're looking to just stop agonizing over the idea about it and just do it, this episode is also for you. And I mean, the thing is we're really afraid to tell the stories that are inside of us because of two things. We'll waste our time and it'll mean nothing, or no one wants to hear what I have to say. And I want to assure you that in this episode, you'll hear the exact reasons why you're wrong. Not in a bad way, but you're rightfully wrong. Seriously. So enjoy this episode with Honoree Corder and I. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button and get updated on every single time this episode's released. It doesn't take much effort to hit the subscribe button, because if you hit that subscribe button, then you get an opportunity to realize that, oh, gosh, Scratch Your Own Itch let out a episode. This is pretty cool. I'm going to listen to it. And so I want to invite you to this one question, because I kind of say it in the intro, but I want to say it again. maybe self-development isn't the thing that you need, but maybe it's answering that deep, hard question that you keep asking yourself over and over and over. And that's how a book can be written. So really ask yourself this one question. It's a curiosity question. Is self-development going to save me? Or is writing out and putting out on paper the problem going to give me the answer? Really ask yourself that question. And really enjoy this interview. And don't ever forget you matter and you're enough. And I'll probably say that again at the end. So just don't forget it. All right, enjoy. Hey, you. Yeah, you. I'm talking to just you right now. And I have to confess that, sometimes I push this self-development quite a lot. Because the truth is, I'd rather watch a good old Tony R seminar in which he sucks the negativity out of a person's life and injects a new belief into their minds that catapults their life into completely new possibilities. Every time I see this, I'm just so inspired to do something great, like maybe start writing that book that changes people's lives forever, right? But then all of a sudden 5 minutes into it, or maybe 6 minutes, I lose inspiration. I don't know where else to go. So I've got another question for you, though. I've got this question about, hey, has this ever happened to you? And this question is another question that I want to ask you is, maybe self-improvement isn't the answer for the problem. Maybe writing out that idea that's been agonizing to think about is the answer. And when I say this to you, I put myself in this agonizing pool with you. I am by no means above you. I'm swimming right now by your side because the truth is, I still know deep down that I need you and you need me, but we also need mentors. We need coaches to tell us what to do when we're completely lost. And my guest today is going to help us find our way through the dark of storytelling. My guest is Honoree Corder, and she's more than qualified to help us through the art of storytelling. She is the author of 20 books, including You Must Write a Book, Vision to Reality, Prosperity for Writers, just to name a few. And she coaches business professionals and writers who want to publish their book to the best-selling status and beyond. She joins us to discuss writing and creating multiple streams of income. Because let's be honest, creating a life worth living just doesn't come through watching more Tony R seminars, but it's actually going out there and finding that deep pain inside of yourself that is so agonizing to go through that you just need to let it out. And today we're going to learn and prompt ourselves with that quality question to initiate the story you want to tell. But I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to stop babbling so much and get in goddess herself, Honoree Corder. Thank you so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch.
Thank you for having me. What a great intro. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. How the heck are you?
I'm well, thank you. I actually stumbled a lot on the intro, but good old editing, right? Just like editing a book.
Yes, that's the beautiful thing is you get out the words and you're left with the beginnings of what will eventually be your book.
Yeah. Oh my God. You got to have a foundation to. One of my old acting teachers used to say that dancers, they need a foundation, and your foundation is the dance floor. Actors need a foundation of where we're starting from emotionally, just like writers probably. Yeah. I mean, I love that too. idea of foundation. So, but yeah, I'd love to kind of get into your story, and since we like to get a little vulnerable on this show, if you don't mind telling us about that struggle that you had to go through before you became this awesome person that you are, and you were awesome then, just the hardest point in your life where you just did not know what you were going to do
So
with
I
it.
have to pick one.
Oh,
Y- I mean, I'm probably could be your mom or your grandmother. So like, I've been through a few. Perhaps you are referencing my divorce specifically.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was ill-equipped to pick my first husband. So I'll just say that when this really hot guy came along and thought that I was a really hot girl and wanted to be with me, that I paid no attention to the fact that he was recently divorced and had 3 children, and that there were all sorts of other reasons why he might not be the best fit in the world for me, and instead flung myself headlong into um, a marriage and having a child, and found myself at 32 with a 2-year-old daughter and an ex-husband to be, and went through the anguishing uh, transformation of going through a divorce and discovering who I was as an adult woman with no partner, and a mom, a single mom of a young person, and a businesswoman trying to carry on as though nothing were going wrong in my life, which is super fun. More fun than it sounds, actually. Um, and the uh, all of the questions that you were asking earlier about what's the thing that you're sitting with, what is your pain, what is the crux of maybe you being stuck. All of that comes up when you go through a major life change, and a divorce is one of those major life changes. And so I had to discover myself from the inside out and take the pieces that I was not in love with and figure out a way to change them so that I could be in love with them, or accept them so that I could be in love with them. And out of all of that, when you say Tony R, I was like, oh, please, I did my first firewalk in 1991 in New York City, and uh, I've been back to the crack several times, in person, and in audio and in books. Absolutely love the work of Tony Robbins, and it was instrumental in me becoming the person that I am today, and the person I'll be, 25 and 30 years from now.
Wow. Yeah, I also am a big fan of Tony Robbins, but the thing is I do believe that I can get a little addicted to the self-development, self-help stuff. And before I know it, I just realized that self-help books are self-help books for the writer, not the reader all the time. And sometimes it just helps the author to get it out there a lot rather
Absolutely.
than the reader. Yeah, and so I'd like to kind of break it down about since you're a master. I mean, you wrote a book called "You Must Write a Book." So I want to talk about that like right away, just because I'm so interested in just the way you handle your clients, because I know that's one of your things is you coach people on the side. Not really on the side, but one of your main businesses is to coach people get a book out there. So what are some programs that you may offer someone that doesn't have a business, that's just starting out, that doesn't have a following, that doesn't really, they want to make money off of writing stories.
So you're talking writing fiction as opposed to writing nonfiction, correct? Or are you talking writing one's
I
own story in the form of a nonfiction book? Okay.
exactly.
So if someone is starting out, they would benefit from, I have a few different options for writers. One of them is You Must Write a Book, and then there's a companion workbook, I Must Write My Book, which is where you actually go through and do the exercises from the original book in an organized, orderly fashion. Right. Then I have the Prosperous Writer Book series, which is for people who are writers and they want to be full time writers. And then I have a series that I just did in 2017 with a full time fiction writer. It's the Like a Boss series. So we did Write Like a Boss, Publish Like a Boss, and actually Market Like a Boss is early 2018. It's in February 2018. That will be released. So the third and final book in that trilogy. Um, if someone wants to make money from their writing and they're building their brand and they're building their kingdom, right? They're building their mountain. Um, what they are writing about is their discovery of themselves. So they're not really writing, in my opinion, they're not really writing the go-to manual for other people. They're really writing their path, their story, their discovery of themselves, which they may or may not use as a book that would sell their services or build their brand. But I do believe that writing
Got
is something that we all benefit from discovering ourselves. There's a great book that came out many years ago, and I actually bought a book in the bookstore by Julia Cameron, The Morning Pages. And she talks about the morning pages, and the book is called The Artist's Way, and she talks about the morning pages and the process and the practice of writing for 3 pages stream of consciousness very first thing in the morning before you meet other people. So for some people it's coffee, for writers it's writing and coffee. Right. uh, so I would recommend any of those as kind of a first place for people to start.
Yeah, I love Julie Cameron's work, The Morning Pages. I only have met maybe like a total of 3 people that have actually read the entire thing and gone through the entire course series that she
Yes.
tries to get people to do, because that thing is a you need a lot of time on your hands to actually complete it. It is. Yeah, but the morning pages, I think that's the best way. I guess that's one of your habits that you do right now, or that you try
So
to
I did the
do.
morning pages for a long time, and I then downshifted into just writing books. So my morning writing practice is to write in whatever my work in progress is. I write every morning pretty much from 6 to 7 a.m., 6, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I am so I'm deeply, deeply curious about everyone's rituals for writing and just their creative work, because it takes an immense amount of energy, and I think an immense amount of, I don't believe in willpower, but I believe in an obsession that just you need to do it so bad, otherwise it'll just haunt you for the rest of your day, your week, your month, your year. And let's face it, there's a lot of, I mean, how many times did you, I want to just so we make someone feel a little less alone. How many book ideas have you gone through before you actually decided that first book idea that you were going to write
Well,
about?
I'm a little bit different, and I know where you're going with that. Is that everyone has lots of ideas, and so how do I pick the one that I should do, or what's the first one that I should do? I actually was a business coach and a speaker, and I met Mark Victor Hansen, who's the co-creator of the Chicken Soup series, and he said, "Everyone is a coach and a speaker. You must write a book." And so I was like, well, no college degree. I've never taken a writing class. I'm not fancy myself a writer. I didn't have a writing practice. I wasn't one of the people that I meet all the time that were like, I've been writing since I was 8 years old. And right, I write things, but I didn't consider myself a writer. And so he suggested that I turn the contents of my most popular speech into a book, to literally take that speech and write it down. That's what started me on my journey. present day, I have a list of 50 or 75 books that I'd like to write in my lifetime, fiction and nonfiction. So for me, it's which one do I feel is timely, which one fits into my business plan currently, what's next? What do I feel like I could work on at any given moment? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy that you say that there could be actually maybe a speech that someone's done or someone maybe have you ever worked with someone that's ever blogged before that comes to you with I've got like this blog I've been writing for, like 3 or 4 months and I want to make a book out of it. Is that possible? Do people do that ever?
Well, they do it. It's not what I think is the best possible method, but I think that the very first thing is a writing practice. So please have a writing practice if you want to write a book, or recognize that you can outsource the writing of your book. You can either use a ghostwriter or you can use a developmental editor, someone that you work with very closely about on the contents of your book. So depending on what your um, writing skill level is and your comfort with your level of writing, then you will have a team of people, that could be 2 people or could be 10 people. And there's no shame in any of that.
Yeah, of course. I think the practice, just like most writers will say, my inspiration starts at 5 a.m. or 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
whenever that clock rolls around. That's when I gotta start. And but do you have any tools or anything that you like to like tricks? Like I know personally as a writer, I can't start with a blank canvas. Like I can't start with just a white paper, white sheet of paper. I have to start with a quote or something. Do you ever use that to prompt yourself, or one question that you prompt yourself with?
Well, I more approach a project from a strategic perspective. So are you talking, how do I get myself started in the morning, or how do I get myself started on a project and how do I keep that going because I'm doing it over the course of many days? Or do you want me to answer both questions?
Yeah, the first and then the second. Yeah, because basically you just asked a better question than what I
Oh, good.
asked.
Okay. So in the morning, when it's time for me to write, it is now my habit to write. So a couple of things go into play. I practice the miracle morning practices as Hal's business partner in the book series. I should, eat my own dog food, right? So I get up and I do some of the miracle morning practices before I do the writing or scribing portion of it. I do journal, but that's separate from my writing, my writing business. Um, we make coffee because that's the fuel of writers around the world. That's the coffee is the official fuel of writers, in case you hadn't heard. And I write from 6 to 7 in the morning, and I have an alarm on my phone that goes off at 5:58, and the title of the alarm is "Time to Write." And that's my signal to my subconscious mind and my conscious mind that it's time for a fresh cup of coffee and to get settled in and ready to go. So that's how I get myself going on a daily basis. As far as a project is concerned, I ask a lot of pre-start questions. There's a lot of strategy that goes into any project that I do. And when I am either my books or when I'm working with one of my clients, I always ask, who is this book for? Right? Who is the ideal reader of this book? And what do I want the reader to do or not do as a result of reading this book? So I'll use You Must Write a Book as an example. Um, I wrote You Must Write a Book because I wanted more people to write and publish books. And what I wanted the reader to do is to feel empowered and inspired and capable of writing their own book. What I did not want the reader to do is write and publish a crappy book, so that the book does not sell or does not do for them what they want it to do for themselves, which is actually, I skipped over this part, is that the very first question you should ask yourself is, what do you want this book to do for you? What's WIIFM? What's in it for me? What do I want this book to do for me? Do I want it to make me money because people pay me for the book? In what format? And then, or do I want this book to make me more money because the reader reads it and then hires me? So You Must Write a Book was for me to have a current book because I was getting a lot of people asking me about writing and publishing books, and I was answering the same questions over and over again, which is usually an indicator that a book needs to be written, is when you're the person that people go to answer those types of questions, or questions about a particular topic or subject. And I wanted people to feel empowered to write a book, because with no college education and no writing classes, I didn't exactly feel qualified to write a book, and yet I did it anyway. And I'm so glad that I did all of these years later. So I wanted people to not make the mistakes that I had made, crappy covers, lack of editing, et cetera, so that when they had gone to all of the trouble of writing and publishing a book, they didn't come out the other side going, well, this was terrible. This was a terrible use of my time and money and effort, and there are easier ways to make money. Right? So I wanted to put all the information that I could without actually talking to someone into one place that I could send them so that they would write a book. So when I'm working with someone to write a book, or I'm thinking, okay, what's the next book that I'm going to write? I answer these questions first. What's in it for me? What do I want from the book? And then who is the book for, and what do I want them to do and or not do as a result of reading this book? And then I know who I'm talking to, and I then write the outline as though I was having a conversation. So if I was giving you directions to my home and you didn't live in Austin, I would say, well, you need to get to Austin. That's step one. And then let's talk about how all the ways that you could get to Austin. You could fly, or you could drive, or you could walk, or you could bike. What are all the different ways, right? And then the next step would be, if you flew in, then you could take an Uber, or you could take a limousine, or you could rent a car, or you could walk. And then where am I? So I go through the how-to portion of the book as though I were having a logical conversation with someone. What comes first, and then what comes next, and then what goes after that. So that's an outline. When it's time for me to sit down and write, I just start from the beginning. So you want to come and visit me in Austin? Great. We're going to have so much fun. Here's what I think you need to do first. And then after you do that, then you do this, right? Of course, you have to pack. You got to look at the weather. Today it's 68. Tomorrow it's going to be 30. So today you need a bikini. Tomorrow you need a parka, right? There's all these things that go into a conversation with someone when you're giving them answers. What's the problem that you're helping them solve? And then how would you help them solve it? What's the best advice you got? Does all that make sense?
So
It's a lot. It's a lot. So
yeah,
let's dissect it in any way that makes sense for you.
yeah, of course. It sounds like a lot of quality questions to ask yourself. Before anything is like you said, like, who are you writing it for, and then what do you want this to actually do for you in your life? I think one question that's really scary for people to ask themselves is, what if I write this book and then it's just crickets, like no one actually comes to it and no one actually reads it? Like, how do I set myself up for that success, or somewhat that success, in the beginning before starting the writing process?
Sure. So you're talking marketing. So that's
So and that's a whole
a
nother
whole
thing, huh?
other, right. There's the writing, that like write like a boss, right? And then publish like a boss, and then market like a boss. Those are three separate books, because those are really three different conversations. They're like Olympic rings, though. They cross over. There's some part of marketing where you have to think about it when you're writing, because if you try to fix everything at the end, it's too late, and et cetera. But really, what you're saying then is, what if I write this book and no one comes? That could be because you didn't identify your reader. A lot of times people will say, well, it's a motivational book, it's for everybody. Well, there's nothing for everybody except water. Right? Everybody needs water. The end. Water and sleep. I think we're kind of out
And
and
coffee.
coffee. Although not everyone drinks coffee, which is shocking. But anyway, you see where I'm going with this, right? So there are things you have to
Yeah.
identify initially in order for someone to come. They have to be the right person for what you've written, for the book that you've written. That's a predetermined avatar. But you can write the best book in the world if you don't publish it beautifully and professionally and you don't market it well, you will hear crickets. But it's kind of a different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But you kind of answered it. If you are very sure on what this book is going to serve, which is really, really, really tough to actually follow through with if you don't have someone helping you, I think. Because let's face it, like I know that as a person today, living in the world that we live in today, I get inspired like crazy, and my focus goes from, oh, I want to write a book about, because I'm really curious about quantum physics. And the next day, I'm really curious about how to get in really kicking awesome shape. So I want to write about that book. Or no, the next day I want to write about, oh man, I got so inspired by that book I read last night about how broken Sam was after he
Mm,
lost Frodo.
mm.
So I want to write the next Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
like, I just think that it's so important to just kind of pick out that one person that you are writing to that keeps you focused, right? So you don't fall off the path. And I think it's different for everyone too. Some people are just really good at staying focused with that rather than getting so like, shiny red ball syndrome sort of thing. So do you do that often with your clients, or are you just like, all right, let's focus in on just this one thing?
All every day. Right before this call, I had a client. So yes. Yep. Every day. Yep. Well, because now he's
um
written the first in his now trilogy, right? So he was like, I'm going to write a book, Honoree. I'm totally inspired. You've inspired me to write a book. I'm going to write one book. And now we've had our, eighth coaching conversation or something. And his book is up for pre order and it's almost ready. And he's so excited. And he's like, and by the way, when I was on vacation over the holidays, I mapped out book 2 and book 3, and we're good, so going to do it. And I was like, that's awesome. So today we're going to focus on book 1 because we need to just close the loop on book 1 and then we can totally crush it with book 2. It's very hard to
yeah.
stay focused if you are at all a creative person. There are book ideas everywhere. That's why when someone says, I don't really know what I want to write about, it's like, oh gosh, there are so many things to write about. So just open your mind, right? Put up your antenna. You'll figure something out lickety split.
Yeah. Albert Einstein used to say he used to search for an answer, and then he started swimming, and the answer would
Mm-hmm.
come.
Yep. That's exactly
And
right.
yeah,
Yes.
it's so hard. It's like a workout, The first 5 minutes is the worst, and then all of a sudden you get into it, and you're like, all right, now I just don't really want to stop. For you, and to make anybody out there that is feeling alone right now with their writing, like maybe they're like, oh god, like I feel like I'm doing this in a vacuum. What are some tricks and tips for people that feel like they're trying to create in a vacuum? What do you use? Do you go for a walk ever? Do you ever just write in Starbucks, or do you write on your phone? I know I write on my phone quite a bit. What are little tools that you use to write?
Yeah, so I make it so that I have that writing time to write every day. And like every person, I would so much rather be on Facebook than writing until I'm writing. So that first 5 minutes is really important to kind of just go, oh, here we are again. Unless where I've left off yesterday is kind of like I'm ready to dive back into that. So I'll write the first half of a sentence and then I'll open it up and be ready to go. But most of the time, I have to back myself into it. I have to say, okay, like put in your headphones. And I listen to a great app called Focus at Will. And you put in the classical music or the upbeat music or whatever you want to listen to and kind of shut things out. I'm more of an introvert. I recharge alone. So writing at home alone at 6 in the morning is easiest for me. Um, some people find it easier and better to go to a coffee shop so that they're around other people, but they don't have to talk to them. I just have a bunch of stuff. So if I go to a coffee stop, I got to take all my stuff because I'm a girl. So we have stuff, right? You're a dude. You're like, I got a phone, I got a computer, I got a car key. I'm out. Even girls have stuff. So it's a little different for me. But when I am
Sure.
traveling, like when I go to my in-laws house with my husband, I will very often escape to a coffee shop. because it's less chaotic for me. So it just depends on the situation. I do exercise every day, 1,000%. And when I get stuck, I go for a walk um, during the day if I have more time to write. Usually my days are full. So my 6 to 7 a.m. period is the only time I write. So I produce about, between 8 and 12 books a year. So people think that I must just be, as a full-time writer, I must be writing full-time. And I only write that hour a day. So when it comes to production, people think, oh, I have to dedicate hours and hours and hours. It's really, if you're just focusing, you can write quite a bit. When you were saying you write on your phone, I don't write on my phone. It's too little. I have fat thumbs. I do sometimes use Dragon Anywhere and Dragon Dictate. So I run VMware on my Mac computer because the Windows version of Dragon is so much better than the Mac version. So I can dictate a bunch of words and then cut and paste into my Mac, which is where I keep all of my IP. For me, it's just, it has become a habit. It is now part of who I am, not something I do, but that took a long time. It takes, 21 days to build a habit, but it takes a lot longer, I think, for it to become part of who you are. Whereas it like, that's just what I do. I just get up in the morning, make the coffee, and do the writing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the habit loop. The I love the power of habit. So if someone's really having a hard time with writing, I know, and I'm speaking at you, and I feel bad for speaking at you right now. I want to speak with you. I know that creating a habit loop for myself has just helped me a
Sure.
lot.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ever or I would like to at least exercise the idea of at least adopting the habit loop, which it just helps a lot for someone to do that with anything, because you go on autopilot, and some writers will even talk about how like they never actually wrote the book. They feel like the book kind of wrote itself, and when you hear that, of course you're like, what do you mean, like wrote yourself, like, or the book would just it just came through me, like I didn't actually write it at all. Like, and so, have you ever told a client that, and then going like, you're kind of full of it, like you're full of both. What do you mean? It just happened to you. Like, what do you mean, or it came through you? Is that a limiting belief that sometimes people have because they go, oh, hey, this is not coming through me. I'm not meant to be a writer.
Well, so it's everyone goes through stages, right? There, I didn't call myself an author until my seventh book, or a writer, because I didn't believe that I was a capital A author, a capital W writer, and it wasn't until some legit writer people were like, "Hey, so yeah, you're a legit writer. Get out of your own way. Maybe lead with you're an author because that's cool. Everyone's a coach and a speaker, but being an author is cool. Oh, okay, I'll go with that. Um, Sometimes I have to help people to recognize that they are not the originator of the message, that they are the messenger, that they get to be the person to deliver that particular message, but they aren't the originator or creator of the message, and allow themselves to get into a space of letting the message come to them and through them. I recommend a lot meditation and mindfulness, because I think those practices are very helpful to being able to listen to the quiet voice that is very wise. But no, by the time someone calls me, generally they have decided that they are going to write a book by hook or by crook, and I am going to help them. And the end.
I love that. No, I have to point that out. It's
Yeah, yeah,
deciding. It's deciding. Which because we're both big fans of Tony R, I've heard him just talk about deciding that there's certain things in your life that just are not an option. Like once he saw his wife, deciding that a divorce was not an option anymore for
yeah.
him was something that and I think that it goes to saying, if you just decide that you're going to write a book um, about XYZ, it's going to happen for you. And I love that. Just
Correct.
deciding. It's I do want to ask you a little bit about your TED Talk, Black or Authenticity is the New
Yes.
Black, which I
Thank
just
you.
love. I love that talk because I know for me right now, all right, I'm about to get a little emotional right now. Seeing that talk allowed me to be so much less exhausted in life because I was pretending so
Mm,
much to be a certain
mm,
person. And I just think that a lot of people are pretending to be someone that they're not. And so, if there's an inkling in you right now that needs to write a book because you're just exhausted about being someone that you're not, um, you need to tell that story because first of all, it's just gonna make you feel a lot better, and it's gonna make a few people out there feel a little less alone. Maybe just a few, and that's okay. And so, I'd like to ask you, shit. Sorry, I don't want to get emotional. But for you, what inspired or what propelled that idea about writing about or doing a talk about authenticity, rather?
Well, and I so appreciate your authenticity right now and your vulnerability. That's very cool. We find ourselves in other people, and when you got a cool podcaster with a great voice and a cool show, and he's like the cool kid, right? And then he gets a little raw. It's like, oh wow, so he's a real person too. So I think that's really cool. Thank you for feeling safe enough to do that. I was actually asked to do, it was a TEDx talk. So there's the TED is the super cool kids. TEDx is just second level, just so you know. So I haven't given a TED talk. I've given a TEDx talk, just to be clear. Um, but I'm open to doing a TED talk in case, TED is listening. So, um, but I was asked to do the talk, and then the person who was the host of the event was a former client of mine, and she said a little bit about what you said, which is that I helped her to um, understand things about herself and to shed aspects of her life that weren't working, because when you, like, to your point, there are a lot of people pretending to be something that they're not, to impress people they don't like, to make money that they could use for something else, to buy things that they don't want, to impress the people that they are now quote unquote friends with that they don't like, which is just um, kind of cracks me up and is a little sad also. um, so she asked me to talk about those key messages. And because I have my sayings, right? You can't do the right thing with the wrong person. You can't do the wrong thing with the right person. No is a complete sentence. The things that I talked about in that talk are my honoreisms, if you will. And I feel, I have no FOMO. And I feel when someone says, oh, I'm just so exhausted, but I have to go do this thing or I have to go do that thing, and they're kind of keeping themselves busy and racing against everyone else. And I watch how exhausting that is. And I would love for everyone just to stop and recognize what works about who they are, that's working for them, that they're doing, and what's not working that they're doing, and to stop doing what's not working and to enjoy life, because you just don't know how long you get.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for
Sure.
that. To say that and to just also do the talk and I mean, there's so many things that I believe that people, it's so easy to lose yourself because of all the people that you thought were your mentors kind of turn on you and not meaning like, oh God, this person is my father. And now they're telling me like I shouldn't actually try to, make a living from doing something I love because it's been 8 months and I haven't made a single dollar. And so often we equate success with how much revenue we're making or how many fans we have on Facebook or whatever. And, you put out a status and you've been at it for like 6 months and you go, oh God, I've got 3 likes on that status that I put a lot of thought into. Um,
Yeah, it's so
I don't
exhausting.
know.
It just let it go, everybody. My next book that I'm working on mentally right now before I put pen to paper is subtitled, and you'll have to bleep this out if swearing is not okay, but it's basically be
No, you're fine.
yourself. Stop trying so fucking hard. Like, seriously, like
I,
you don't need to do A/B testing on your cover, and you don't need to write three sets of sales copy to see which one converts better. It's like, just be your authentic self, and the right people will be attracted to you like a magnet. They will not be able to stay away. People will get excited about you and talk about you to their friends and their family and their connections because they can't help it. Because authenticity is irresistibly attractive, and the other stuff is not so much.
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I've watched your TED Talk more than I've ever watched Orange is the New Black. So
Okay,
take that
good.
as a
Yes, because
compliment.
that show has been watched way more than my talk. So there you go. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take one awesome viewer. That's amazing. That's very humbling. I'm very honored by your words. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So yeah, check it out if you're listening right now. Please check out her awesome TED Talk. If you're a huge fan of actually wanting to write a book, you might have to put off the whole watching the Orange is the New Black and the Netflix and watching all that kind of stuff to actually start writing your book. So I wanna though do a little scratching the surface curiosity questions to end us out. Just because I like to ask these questions as a way to really help you too with anything that you're like kind of struggling with right now currently, and also a way to make some people feel less
Okay.
alone
Yeah,
if
I'm
you're
ready.
ready
Let's
for
do it.
that. Okay. All right. What's a current thought that you're having right now that you kind of wish you just didn't have anymore?
Oh, my daughter just turned 18 and she's about to graduate from high school. And I wish I could stop wishing I had done things differently as a mom.
You're so not alone in that.
Oh, I
I
know.
don't know that
I
personally, but
know.
I know.
Yes, it is. Parenting is no joke. And it is hard, and it is wonderful, and it's awful, and it's terrific. And I wouldn't change a thing, except now I can look back and go, "Oh, if only I'd done this a little bit more or done that a little bit less." Oh, that's where I'm at in my head, because she's getting ready to graduate. We ordered the cap and gown this morning. So,
The blame game, the shoulda, woulda,
yeah,
coulda.
which is not helpful or productive. And so, yeah.
But
Okay,
hey,
yeah.
thank you so much for making that one person right now going through that same shit feel
Okay,
less alone.
good.
Because we're human. We're human. What's a bad habit of yours right now that you're trying to break?
You know what? My husband and I watch a lot of television. We watch, and I'm not actually, no, that's a lie. I'm not even trying to break that habit. I suppose I would feel like if someone saw how much television I watched. I watched like 6 football games or 4 football games this weekend, something like that. It was
Wow.
awesome. And did you see the Vikings upset my Saints in the last freaking second of the game? Like, yeah,
That was
that was crazy.
crazy.
And I
That
thought we had
was
14 seconds left. I was like, yes, we totally have this. My husband literally, like, the minute they won, he was like, okay, let's change the channel. He's been a Saints fan since he was born. He was very upset. I think he's still upset right now. Anyway, I watch a lot of
ah,
television, and people always say, well, you can't be successful and watch a lot of television. And I go, that's kind of like the people who say you can't make any money from your writing. I go, I'm kind of doing it. I don't know. So I think maybe I would do better if I watched less television, but then I don't want to. So there's that. All right, what's your next question?
oh, no, I was loving you're reflecting on the whole
Yeah, I've
experience and
decided I
everything.
don't care at the end of that, all of that. I'm like, oh, I kind of don't care. I'm going to watch television later.
Yeah. No, so I think that it's cool that you distinguish what a bad habit is that you're like, you know what, whatever, it's my painful pleasure, the habit that I'm gonna just, I'm just gonna or my guilty pleasure sort of
Yes,
habit.
my
But
guilty
anyways,
pleasure is
on to the
not
next
killing
question.
baby animals. So I think I'm okay. I think I'm
You
all right. I
are,
think I'm
you
going to be
are,
okay.
you
All
are.
right, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's continue.
Will do. What's a weird little thing that you do that you don't think really many people do? Like I know myself. I like to sometimes like give myself like mirror high fives, or sometimes I like to like talk out loud to myself. Actually, very often I talk out loud to myself. What's
I do
something
the
that you
same
do?
thing. I do my affirmations in the shower every morning. I have like sheets of paper that I've
Oof.
taped to the outside of the glass so it won't get wet. And I have my affirmations. I
Oh.
know I was taping them inside and I was telling my husband once I had to go get some plastic paper protectors. And he's like, why don't you just tape them on the outside of the glass? They're genius. I was like, oh, all right.
That I like that, because the best ideas
That's right.
happen in
Well,
the
but I'm
shower,
saying
and
my
then if you got
goals. Like I'm
affirmations
saying my
too.
affirmations and my
Yeah.
goals. I have my top 4 goals and all my affirmations and all of my positive statements, my mantras, all the things on the outside of the mirror, on my mirror. Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, it
I'm
works.
a
I'm a
fan.
big fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of what you
No, I
say
mean,
when you talk to yourself matters and that your words are substance that you release out into the universe. So be very, very careful. I heard once the saying, you cannot afford the luxury of a negative thought, but you doubly cannot afford the luxury of a negative word that you utter because what you utter becomes your outer world. So I'm very hesitant to
oh,
say like I am stupid or something like that because I'm like, no,
oh,
nope.
don't, no,
Ah,
I'm not
don't
gonna say
say
that.
that. Don't say
Yeah,
that. Yeah, someone sent me an email recently or a text message and was like, I need a recommendation, but keep in mind I'm a jarhead, so I'm not that smart. I called him and I was like, you better stop that shit right now. Do not say that about yourself. No, no, no. I was
uh-oh.
like, and I love you and I'm busting your chops, but no, don't ever say that again. Or at least don't say it where I can hear you because I am coming for you. I will come for you.
Yeah, my life coach, old coworker used to always say, I've got to tell you something. When you say not a problem or no problem to a table, that you're putting that out into
Right?
the
Because the
ethos.
brain
So
doesn't hear
so
don't. The
don't
brain
ever say
doesn't
that.
hear
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You are a
When someone
smart
says like
woman.
how are you doing,
That's
I
the
say I am crushing it.
mm,
Crushing it. Yes.
yep. It's so true. And it just yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
on to the next question, because we could probably talk about that
I'm
for another
sure.
hour. Maybe we'll bring you back on about we'll call it the Honoree
Bonus.
Corder Tony R
Yes.
special
Okay.
bonus episode. I would love that. Yeah, so the next question is if you could be someone for just 1 month, who would you want to be and why?
For a month? Oh, do I have to pick
Yeah, for
one
a
person
month.
or can I be like a different person every day?
You can't mystique this one
Oh,
and be a
all
different
right.
person. You gotta do one
You
person.
know what? I don't even know the answer to that question. I would really have to think. I'm pretty happy being myself. I just got happy being myself.
So
So
I
now I have to
love.
be someone else. Who would I be? Mm,
Oh man.
I don't know. That is a great question. I'll have to answer it next time. Because
No, I actually
I'm
went
kind of
into this.
digging like honestly, I can honestly say I've worked very hard to like myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still my biggest critic, but I'm also like, good job, H. Hal calls
Good
me
job,
HC,
Age.
so he's like, "Hey HC." So I'm like, I do my run and like, every day I'm duking it out on the treadmill, and when I'm done, I'm like, "Good job, that was awesome." Because there's no one else there, so no one else is going to tell
Hmm.
me good job.
Yeah.
Maybe my jeans, like my jeans fit. Like, good job. Good job. You did it.
Hey,
You did it.
hey,
We fit.
hey, denim.
Yes.
This feels good on
Yes,
my legs.
exactly. Yes.
Nice. Not not too tight anymore. It's actually
Yes.
feeling pretty
Yes.
loose.
Yes,
I love it.
that's exactly it.
Uh,
So I'm kind of just
I,
worked hard to get here.
it's
So I
funny
don't
because
know if I would if there's someone that I would pick to be them for a month. Here's the thing I know about every person, and talk about helping people to not feel like they're alone. I Some of my clients are some of the most well-known people in the world. So one of them who insists that I can drop his name, he told me that I should, is Phil Hellmuth, the poker player, the poker brat.
ooh,
And Phil is
nice.
amazing, and he was we were just talking about different people and how they, he kind of hobnobs with one of the some of the most famous people in the world. But I work with people like Phil, and this is not an example of Phil, but um all the people in the world. I talked to someone yesterday, and she was like, I'm sure other people don't have these issues, and I was like, girl, every day I tell someone that everyone is the same. Everyone, no matter who they are, has the same reticence to ask someone else for a favor. So someone today called me and asked me, and I could just tell he was like shaking. Would you write the foreword for my book? I don't want to impose, right? And I was like, of course, I'd be happy to do it. Absolutely. Right. But I was role playing with Phil Hellmuth, and I said, we're going to play a role for just a second, and I'm going to ask you something, but I'm not asking this question. Could I ask this of you? And he was like, oh, absolutely, of course. And I was like, well, I would normally swallow my arm up to my elbow to ask you. And he's like, why? That's ridiculous. And I said, because that's how everybody feels, no matter who they are. So I'm constantly telling people no is a complete sentence. You don't have to give a reason for why you tell someone no if they ask you a question. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, everyone, no matter how big their platform or how big they are in the world or how successful, everyone feels like if I ask you a favor and then you say no, that it's because you don't like me or because I'm not good enough. It it absolutely has nothing to do with that. But that's what we internalize that. Does that make sense?
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna email Tony Robbins and tell him to watch out because Honoree Corder is
I'm coming for
after
it.
him.
No, you know what?
Like,
Not everybody can
yeah,
hear Tony's message. I could hear Tony's message, but
no,
not everybody resonates with Tony. There needs to be more than one person that kind of says the same thing. But Tony says the same things I'm saying, and I'm saying the same things Tony is saying. He, of course, is the master at what he does. He is undisputed student of human behavior and understands people more better than probably anyone on this planet, at least that I know. Um, but every
yeah,
single person says, "Can I ask Logan for a favor? Because he's big time, and I'm just me. I don't know if you would want to do it." And it's like, you don't ask, you don't get. You have to ASK to GET, right? Just ask. If you say
yeah.
no and you're ugly, then I'm like, well, that's just rude and untrue, and you're mean, right? But most people would say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm ugly, and I'm sorry for asking, right? Like that's how we're wired as humans.
Oh, yeah, it's so screwed up. Like, why are we? Yeah, our brain are just our enemy and
Sometimes
just
it can
likes
be
to.
if our self talk is not strong. If our self talk game is not strong, then absolutely. That's why when you say
Yeah,
what you say when you talk to yourself, what you say when you talk about yourself, especially when you're in the shower and you're brushing your teeth and when you're driving in the car and you have the opportunity to listen to something that lifts you up, or you have a chance to say something that lifts you up, um, please do so.
yeah. Oh my God. And if you want more information about the best 4 ways of self-talk, I'm gonna release a mini episode on that because I've been doing some research on that and just different ways of learning and also rooting for yourself and what different voices you can have in your head and play a
Character.
character
All
every
right.
now and then just to
All right. Are we in
character.
Boston? Where are we from?
Um, uh, well, Boston would be, on the radio. We. I don't want to go into. I do a lot of impressions, and people are probably sick of it. So, I could go into that, but I want to just ask you one
Okay.
more question,
Okay.
one more, and then we'll end it out strong. And I'd love if you filled in the blank. Ready? Are
I
you
don't
ready
know.
for
I think
this?
so.
So the oddest thing happens to someone when they realize that fill in the blank.
They are powerful beyond measure. That the only thing getting in their way is them.
And I asked that question because I know this, that often the advice we give to people is the advice that we need for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the time. Like I realize it all the time. I'm like, Logan, that was great advice. You should actually eat that up and start doing it yourself.
Hey, Logan, were you listening? Because, yeah, all right, thanks. Absolutely. Well, when you say self help books are for the writer, a lot of times that is correct. And many times the writer is writing because, and this is why I do a lot of my writing, is because I would just prefer that someone read my where I made what I call stupid tax mistakes and then not make those mistakes and not have to pay the stupid tax. Like, oh, you could
Mm,
pay
yeah.
$100,000 in stupid tax, or you could pay $10 for Honoree's book and spend 4 hours reading it, and then you don't make that mistake. Oh, so much better.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so if
my
you've
God, I
made a
love that you
mistake, you,
say
the
that.
listener, you,
Well,
Logan, or you, the listener, have made a mistake, and then you go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known that, then write that down. I had a conversation with someone this
oof.
morning who is working on a project, and I said, "So are you doing this or are you doing that?" She's like, "Oh, I could never do that. I don't have any I don't know how to do that yet." And I said, "Yes, but right now you are building the recipe for how to do that. So make a note of all of your mistakes and all of your correct moves." Because at some point you're going to be able to talk about what you did right and what you didn't do right, and you'll be able to instruct other people and help them. And she was like, "Oh, that's so interesting." Hmm.
I think that's a great habit. And I'd also like to say that's a great way to end it out. But before we do that, I want to allow anybody that's listening right now that wants to reach out to you because you're incredible. Where can they find you?
I'm not telling. No, I'm kidding. I'm at an
No,
undisclosed
no.
location. No, I have a website, honoreecorder.com. All of my books are on Amazon, and I'm Honoree on social media. So if someone listened to this episode and they want to
Awesome.
connect with me, but tell me how you heard about me because I'm always curious.
Yeah. This show is called Scratch Your Own Itch for a reason. Curiosity is the king. So yeah, be curious about people, be curious about ideas, because that is the Drano for any sadness or any problem that you have right now. Like being curious is just like it's
That's right.
adult play.
That's right.
And I love
That's
that.
right.
It's adult play. So yeah, what's just to round it out, anything that you'd like to leave off by saying? I mean, you've already dropped so many amazing stories, advice, systems that people can adopt to start doing today. But anything else that you want to say?
Just thank you for having me on the show. And I hope that something I said
Oh,
resonated with someone who was listening. Part of the reason that I still continue to work and to write is because when I first started, it was pretty much Tony Robbins and then the masters, right? Napoleon Hill and Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, right? Tony was really in a class by himself, and a lot of wonderful people have come along that are perpetuating the message. But I don't know that there are enough people out there spreading words of you can do it, so do it. When in fact, that would be such a great and wonderful and powerful message for everyone to hear all the time.
I agree. And if you think the space is getting too flooded with too many like, oh, you can do it, you're enough and you matter, you
Nope.
don't. First of all, that's just a
Yeah.
limiting belief. Like, don't ever say that. Like, it really there's a great quote to live by that I like to live by, and maybe you can round it out with us by having a favorite quote of yours. Is I like to live by, when you're feeling down and out, maybe you just need to lift someone else up. So that's why people do actually do a lot of motivational speaking, because when they're feeling down and out and they feel like let's just say it, shit,
Mm-hmm.
crud, bad, crap. Like just to say some inspiration to someone feels so good, even if you just gotta say it to someone and you feel like a fraud doing it.
Well, you know what is
But
interesting? Yeah, well,
what's your favorite
I
quote?
don't know that I have a
Oh,
favorite quote, but I have a message along those lines, which is when I'm not having a good
yeah,
day, when I have my cranky pants on, I go into gratitude mode. It's like, who needs to get a thank you note from me that hasn't gotten one? And then I start calling people that previously have called me when they've been having a bad day, and I just check in. How you doing? Just wanted to say hi. It's a relationship building at its finest, right? Because I'm not calling you because I want something. I'm calling you because I care, which is a which is rarefied air. I think that doesn't happen enough. Most people only reach out to someone when they want something. But if you're really feeling down
yeah.
and you really feel like you don't have anything, walk around where you live and put your hand on everything you own and give thanks for it. Thank you for this table. Thank you for this computer. Thank you for this chair. Thank you for this light bulb. Thank you for this door and this lock that protects me. Thank you for this warm shower or cold shower, depending on who you are and what you do. Right? And
Yeah.
if that doesn't work,
Well, this was amazing.
then go find
Yeah.
a homeless person, make a sandwich, and go find a homeless person.
Ooh.
You think you have it bad? You can listen to this podcast, so your life isn't that bad.
Oh, so true, so true. And I didn't want to cut
No,
you
that's
off. I didn't mean
okay.
to do
You
that,
never
but
know when I'm going
yeah,
to cut
no,
you off.
that's so true. No, I love it. I love it. I love it. The proof is in the pudding. Like you must write a book, and you must also talk about it. You must. Ah, God, it feels so good to engage with someone like yourself today, and I want to just first of all acknowledge you and acknowledge your story, and just say thank you again for all that you do. And I know that you say that's why you keep working, but honestly, that well could dry up tomorrow, and I don't feel like it's gonna dry up for you. So just keep doing it, keep on going. I would love to have you back on one of these days if you're ever up for it to maybe yeah, talk about maybe Tony R. I will I would love to do that. So yeah, thank you so much, Honoree. I love it, love it, love it, love it so much. You're amazing. All right, guys. Well, there's an episode of Scratch Your Own Itch with Honoree Corder and I. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. Please, if you have a chance to leave a review, I would really, really love it. This podcast means the world to me, and I want it to be shared with people, honestly. I want people to feel like they have the permission to be themselves. I want people to feel less alone. And most importantly, I want you right now, to know that someone does care. And if you want to get your story out there, don't be shy. Let me know. Email me Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. Again, that's Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. And I'll help you with a podcast. I would love to help you with that. Get you started. I'm not charging for that. I just want to help you get started at least. And maybe later, if you need help with other podcast stuff, maybe we can be friends and just network together and barter. But anyways, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. And don't ever forget that you can subscribe right now by hitting the subscribe button. I probably tricked you right there. I was going to say, don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough. I'm going to say that still. But please hit that subscribe button. Pay me the best compliment ever by sharing this episode and making someone else's life a little less alone. And the curiosity question of this episode is maybe more self-development is not going to help you, but rather writing down that deep trauma that you keep agonizing over is going to solve your problem. So, you matter and you're enough, and don't ever forget it.